Things on the server here since day one.
All right, it should be recording.
All right. Well, I will just welcome everyone in then. What's up, Internet? What's up, everybody else who's already here? Thanks for coming to this little experiment. You're on the Friends of Krüg, Motley Krüg Media Discord server. And we're going to do a little, I don't know, little overview exploration today with my buddy John Anthony Hartman here. Johnny and I met in Seattle back in the day, probably 20 years ago now, at Chris Pirillo's Gnome Decks. Which is about as geeky of a meeting as you can get, I would say. And he's been experimenting a lot in the last 5 years in the whole kind of transmedia world and kind of with VR and AR and all sorts of kind of interesting next level stuff. And he's started to integrate AI into that as well. And so he's been trying to explain to me what he's been getting up to. And I'm always like, yo, Johnny, I'm following, but I think I'm going to need you to do this for everybody because, what you have to share here is for more than just me. So anyway, Johnny and I conceived of this little artist in residency program. Johnny's the first artist in residence. And what that means is he's going to be doing 4 little workshops here on the server over the next 4 weeks. Talking about his Chasing the Muses project and building online 3D companions using AI. So I think that's probably enough for me. I'm going to slide off here and turn it over to you, Johnny, and I'm going to just welcome folks in and kind of moderate the things and stuff. So yeah, KK over and out for now. On to you, bud.
Thank you, sir. There we go. I'll do that, and then I will grab the screen and do that, and then we have that. So I'm Johnny, and I have robots. I've been working. I signed my 10-year NDA with Microsoft Research in '96, where we basically got to look at what was the early stages of what they claimed were going to be the login by looking at your face, and the computer will be able to see the fire in your house and call 911 for you and all this kind of stuff. What was funny is it took 12 years before Microsoft actually came to the market with a product with Kinect, and they had to buy the Israeli company with the optics to get it to work as well. So I've been hanging out in VR and since '94 as well. So kind of between the two spaces, I've bounced back and forth a bit with different projects. I've been running a media lab since 2006 with Aphidia originally, what's now called IHAVEROBOTS, and built out a lab with a group called Elevate Media Labs out of a group with Ohio, and had a studio partner, have multiple studios that I work with, one out of Ireland, one in Ohio, a group out of LA, and a group out of New York. So I do all kinds of media and interactive things. And one of the big ones we were doing was putting together this, and I'm just going to ask Kris and everybody, is this now full screen?
I can't really tell, and I don't think anyone else can talk except for in the chat. But it looks like it's to me, I think.
Yeah, if you guys can see the slides, then we should be all good. So this is really the formation of Calliope and how I went out to this. So again, I'm an artist and technologist. I've been running a media lab since 2006. I've gotten to work with, we did Columbia Records, their live release during COVID, all sorts of things with virtual production over the last number of years. And really, I came across the domain IHAVEROBOTS many years ago, and I said, yes, I do. And I realized that, this term is not only just the mechanical mechanoids, but it's this software association. And now we really are in this age of where you can kind of create this smart layer. And that's really what the formation of this project originally came from a Google Dialogflow product that we'll dive into. And I asked the kind of be kind and not share that too much. But we're going to kind of go over an introduction to the Muses and the roles and their capabilities and kind of how we were initially looking at how we framed those out. And then really looking at how that has adapted and is changing with this new landscape, with what ChatGPT-4 has done, what Poe, with the ability to kind of think about it as Android and Google, or Android and iOS, with the kind of stores that are coming to bear. So you're going to start to see some new ecosystems. Apple, I'm sure. I mean, the Android and the Play Store and the Apple Store will both still play a big part here as well, I believe. So, but there'll be these outputs where we can utilize these AI agents and sell and exchange them. So I want to show how we're moving into those kinds of models, specifically with Poe, and explore this idea of what is an artist in residency here with somebody like Kris and this amazing community that we have here and that's developing, and who we can bring in. And this one specifically, I'm from the entertainment industry, so I got over 20 feature films under my belt, and how we've leveraged and utilized these tools in the entertainment industry, using natural language processing, visual recognition systems, and large language models as we processed and created different media. So this character here, for an example, she is one of a set of 3D models that were created from AI imagery and then using AI mapped back onto a 3D model using Photoshop and the AI that they've got in that, and other tools like Midjourney and these others. And really the idea here is to kind of show you how to kind of use these to really create some magic out of the collaboration that we can create. And honestly, everybody kind of giggles and talks about hallucinations. I have a tendency, especially if you find something fun in a collaborative creative process, to lean into it. And I'm going to kind of set a little side tangent, and I'll be quick about this. I did a early experiment called Tinfoil Think, where I built an AI model. You can see all of this over on X. I was going to say Twitter. I caught myself. Over on X, basically I let AI take over the Twitter account for about 4 or 5 days. And I did this language to image, image to language with a monkey in the middle kind of comedy bot, for lack of a better term, trained it on basically Art Bale, tinfoil hat style stuff, and got some hilarious things out of the AI and writing. And I'll touch on that at probably a later version of one of these. I'll dive into that a little bit more maybe. Really what I want to do is I want to dive into the workflows and the tools of the trade and how we're using them in pre-production, post.
Hey, Johnny, I just wanted to let you know that maybe you're advancing your slides, but we can't see them. We're all still on the first Calliope the Muse slide. Anyway, looks like you found it.
Do you see the second one now?
Yeah, happening now.
Okay, I guess I'm going to have to leave the... That's not fun. Okay. Thank you, sir. Actually, I will need the navigator. All right.
Sorry, just as Hellboy pointed out there, we are seeing the edit view, not the slideshow view, for what it's worth. So we're still kind of just stuck on the Who is Johnny one.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to just do this then. Let's do this. I'm going to disconnect, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share the entire screen.
All right.
And that should resolve that problem. And then I can just go full screen. And then now you should see me in a robot.
Yep, we got you. I think that's going to work.
And now you should see the session.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So
going back into hiding.
No, thank you. That please come out of hiding at any time. This is not I don't want it to be a one-way conversation by any means. Yeah, that's me.
Well,
That's a robot.
once you make it through your main presentation, I will make everyone a speaker so we can have a bit more of a chit chat. Hey, welcome, Emma.
So, like I said, we're going to run over the Muses, their capabilities, what we're doing. This is Calliope, and this is the 3D model that I created an image, invoke the Muse kind of thing through Midjourney. Took the face, the close-up of the face, then mapped that onto a 3D model. Took that 3D model. That's what I shared out a little bit. So part of what I'm doing is I'm recording the writer's room, collaborative writer's room exercises, turning that into a script, then taking that to the 3D model using some AI voices. And then that's how Calliope is kind of telling you about the hero's journey or diving deeper into plot and narrative and these other things through that YouTube playlist. If anybody has seen that, that's what that was about. And I'll make sure you have links to that. But that's kind of what I'm trying to do is express the concepts and the ideas that are coming out of what I'm going to kind of describe to you, the making of the sausage, and then that's the sausage, right? If that makes sense. And honestly, like I said, simply this is kind of showing you how to use this technology and art to kind of create a magic, because you really can, like I said, lean into the hallucinations sometimes. And I will go back, I promise, to the comedy bot. That is the tinfoil think, because I mean, the response, the first response was apparently every 3 out of every 10 enjoy the probing, and then the call and response back from another, and it got a big, it's basically an alien with a coffee mug and a big tinfoil hat with big bug eyes, and he's like, his response is, "You're doing it wrong." It's more like 6 out of 10. I couldn't believe that was the comedy was hilarious with some of that stuff. But so using these different tools in pre-production, production, and post-production, I'm going to pull back in this and the things that I share, other than a few things with AccuFace Headshot, like I said, the 3D model pieces. Everything else is either fairly inexpensive, and by that I mean you're not going to pay over $100. I'm going to put context for me. We spent $780 just on one set of tools for 1 month, kind of thing, on a regular at the studio. So when I say inexpensive, I'm saying, trying to keep it sub $100 in the set of tools that you might need, or that there are free options that may not be their older version, like ChatGPT 3 as opposed to 4, that kind of thing. And then Photoshop, that's the devil that if you're an artist, you probably are already paying for anyway. So, or something it's akin. But the Photoshop, the new version, because I was on their beta team as well, the new AI version is just incredible for the painting and the scene fills and stuff like that. So we use a ton of Adobe still. So for the creation of Calliope and how kind of I initially formed her was around a domain-specific knowledge agent. So we built out in Dialogflow these models for how to build each of these muses as different agents in this Dialogflow architecture with Google and SADA. This was, I think, 2019, if I'm remembering. And so I'm going to walk you through kind of how we constructed her back then, and then what I'm doing in this case to kind of bring her fast forward, and what we want to do to train up an AI model for Calliope and some of this other stuff, and how to use that. So the Muses really, come back to one of the oldest, kind of story mechanics, the pieces, the fundamentals. And I kind of realized that if we structure this out with our team and we give them each specific, so this one's about narrative, this one's about pacing, this one's, right, we've set the agents to specific things that are the Muses. And in the Dialogflow agent pieces, it was very much more akin to the older chatbots. Now it really is becoming more like having another, I don't want to say it's even a full-fledged, like the producer in the room, but you have, so a number of junior writers in the room with as an example for the writing AI, the collaborative writing room AI stuff, and I'll get into that in just a second. Speaking of which, so that's really where a lot of our genesis and iteration comes from, is at the beginning. And we've built a tool that I've been working on for ages called Story Atlas that we've been using to keep control of distribution and manage canon and things like that, and just deal with complex story worlds, because I work with a lot of, as a transmedia producer, I work with a lot of broad scoping projects where you got to keep track of a lot of moving parts. So I start with what becomes kind of myself in the center, with Grammarly, and I'm going to bring all the AI that I can think of to bear as far as that kind of thing. And I will say that I do that as an intentional piece, because Grammarly does a really nice job of cleaning up language. And what I will do is I will use Grammarly like you would use an editor in late stage. So I'll also we'll formulate the writer's room as a flow through as well, right? So we'll have maybe a cloud instance running what is a prompted form of language in and around the story. So we'll usually frame kind of we'll give it the tagline, we'll give it some basic functions of the story elements that we want to tell it about. It's an episode, right? We'll give it a frame of how it needs to be pacing or writing, usually. And then from that frame, kind of iterate and build on, and then move from AI agents to AI agents, and then through the human population, and then back out to what becomes an editorial pass into Grammarly, and then to the final pass with the human proof. And honestly, what is usually a lot of some reorganization, and then that true final creative pass, right? Where we put the flourish, right? And oftentimes, when I did the original piece with the tinfoil think, I really let it do almost everything, but I did do a few, 98% was probably the pass through of what it was. About 89% of the language is what came through. I would occasionally change that, like pickle is a funnier word, so I would potentially put pickle or something. But for the most part, I just let the AI do its thing with that experiment. But for other things, we definitely have much more of a human touch. There's a I don't know how many of you folks are using Poe. It's really interesting because there's a whole litany. It's kind of a dashboard to multiple AI interfaces or AI entities and agents. And I'll show that at some point here in a little bit as well. So it's that feed in that process. It's very much like a writer's room, and that's kind of how we originally built Story Atlas. Was out of kind of these really large, like Leviathan process. It's like a year-long process for building out a story world. And you take that and you break that down into smaller pieces, and those are like writer's room exercises or weekend retreats. Kind of you build them as these kind of writers collaboratives that you can work on. And now what we've realized is just starting to plug in a lot more AI into that process as well. And it's really, honestly, it's helped to be able to deal with the madness of what has become the expectation. So wanted to say we're doing this again next week on the 11th at 4 p.m. As well for part 2. So we'll dive a bit more into this. And if you don't know, I'm at IHAVEROBOTS.com. I should have done this up front, but I want to thank Motley Krüg Media and all our sponsors and that kind of stuff. And I know this looks like we're at the end, but we're really not, because I'm just giving you a little sense of where we're headed, and then we're going to kind of unwrap the onion. So we're going to figure out kind of how this breathes life into story and move through. I'll dive deeper into kind of Poe and the process of how we do some of that storytelling and the real-time narrative building. And then the collaborative piece, depending on how far kind of we get the technical pieces, the training elements, I can get into some of that, and I think it'll make more sense when we get to these next slides after the fact. And then really I think that final one is getting into where kind of envisioning the future of AI and narrative and 3D Kris and I were talking. Initially, I'd thought about showing some of the Unity tools, but again, like I said, we were paying $750 a month. So that's not really necessarily a realistic thing for people, but Unity now has a style training engine. You can also, they've got an AI sprites engine, all this other kind of stuff that you can now do as to where we're headed. But I really think the biggie of where we're headed is some of the stuff, and we have these these repos pulled down from like Hugging Face and some other places, but gonna get the name wrong. It's Kava is the 3D model. There's a 3D model AI pose that's basically text to 3D, and you can take basically a simple block and a rectangle and readjust the face. You may have seen this on LinkedIn or other places. They've even got some inputs where they're using like Procreate and some other like pen-based tools on an iPad or other input devices. Then you put the whiskers and then you say white fluffy cat, and you can change the orientation of the 3D model and all this kind of stuff in fairly real time. I think that's where we're headed in a hurry. Is AI handling a lot of the kind of character builds and the 3D modeling tasks that are going to be required to build out the metaverse at scale. So I am going to ask that this, and you'll even see, because I literally pulled this from the deck that we did to Google and with a partner of ours. So it's been a while, so it's not like, national secrets or anything, but, you'll be shamed in front of a live studio audience if you share this. No, I'm just kidding.
It's Johnny's special sauce, so,